afternoon, she arrived, it's like,
Ready?
she had
Okay.
days on and stuff.
No.
She didn't come in, she came in on Wednesday.
Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have an establishment of quorum. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion made. Second.
Second in, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Approval of minutes, included in your packet was the minutes from our last meeting. Need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, so we're going into public comments. Maybe what would be best to do to go around and just everyone introduce ourselves. My name is Andrew Vorse. I'm the Director of Planning here, serving as the chair.
Hey everybody, thank you for having me. Joel Rivera, Senior Campaign Organizer at the Massachusetts Immigrant and Refugee Advocacy Coalition, also known as MIRA.
Hi, Nancy Holmes, Town Clerk.
Margaretta Andrews, Community Foundation for Nantucket.
Peter Morrison, co-president of the Civic League.
Phil Gallagher, observer who once was a statistician.
Can you spell your name? Is it Gallagher? Eleanor Antonietti, staff in support of this committee.
Rachel Day, Town Nantucket, Human Services.
Caroline Frey, Nantucket Data Platform.
Jocelyn Ramirez, Bilingual Support Specialist for the school district.
Tracy Roberts, Director at the Community School.
Debbie Du Bois, a member of the Immigration Resource Center.
Laura Medrona, I'm a Senior Partnership Specialist with the Census Bureau.
Great, thank you. I'm going to hold public comment, but this leads us into our introduction of guests. And Laura, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. I had met Laura at the MAPC, the Mass Association of Planning of Greater Boston region, and she made a commitment to come out here, and here she is, which is great. And she can update us of all the exciting news from the census.
Well, we're moving along. Most of the offices are already staffed and ready to go in a week. And they're going to start doing the address canvassing, which is just 35% of the countries. So you might see people in the island, you might not see people in the island. Just doing, verifying addresses and or knocking doors just to ask people how many apartments are in this building. So there was a letter sent to the chief of police just in case of somebody calling and said, I have seen a strange man or woman in the
Knocking on my
neighborhood."
door, right?
Yeah, so they will know. So that's where we are. And just the grassroots outreach, and we're trying to be everywhere where you guys want us to be.
We have questions for?
Can you tell us for sure if someone's going to be here or hard to
We
know?
can't tell, they'll tell us 35% of the country, so it's kind of random.
In terms of the timing, I know a question came up the last time about when does the actual outreach, is it March of 2020 when people start?
So to give you some background, so from now until December 31st is outreach campaign, grassroots, like coming here, trying to do events, talking to everybody who's willing to listen. January is the ad campaign, paid. We try to be everywhere, billboards, TV, paid radio, so that's when the money is gonna go to the paid advertisement. March 1st, or the first week of March, you're gonna get an envelope that is the invitation to fill the census. Every address, so it doesn't go to the person, it goes to the address. Every address that we have on file, we work with the town clerk on those files, with the postal office, and with the GPS system that we have to verify all those addresses, so every address is gonna get an invitation to fill the census. That comes with a unique ID number. That ID the ID number, is the address. It's all that it is. So the invitation is to go online or call in to do the interview. So when you dial, there is 13 support languages, including English. So if you dial
30 or 13?
13,
Thank you.
so when you dial the Russian number, a Russian speaker is gonna answer that line. It's not gonna be like 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. You're gonna, this is what the planet is. So it's gonna do the interview at that point. So by 2 weeks from that date that the mailing is out, it's gonna be a reminding postcard. They say, please go online over the phone if you have not done that. By the end of March, those addresses that have not received we have not received the online and over the phone, because it's supposed to be real time. So if you do it today at 1, by 2 o'clock, we're supposed to have already checked you out. So those addresses are going to receive the actual paper questionnaire. So you still can go online, you can still call, and now you have the paper to send it back. You lose your ID number, that doesn't matter. You can be at the beauty salon and you put your smartphone and you can do it. If you don't have that number, we're gonna cross-check the addresses. By mid-May, all those addresses that have not returned, nothing, phone.
Not responded.
Not responded, they're gonna get a postcard again and gonna say, please send it in. By end of May is gonna start the door knocking, the field work for those addresses that have not responded. Still, they can go online or they can still respond. They don't have to wait, but that's where we're gonna start knocking at doors up to 5 times. By the end of August, everything is done. We need to be done, and we need to have a resolution on that address. We cannot say, we tried but nobody was there. So that's why we go to administrative records, or we go to the neighbors and see how many people you have seen there, just to get a rough idea. But we need a closure on that address. And that's it. Yes.
So I just wanted to verify that, because the timeline that we were sent in our package today
Yeah.
says early August to mid-October, they're conducting in-field address canvassing.
Yeah, I have another paper that it says like May, so it
Right.
varies.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's roughly.
Okay.
Yeah.
We try and do it as early as possible, I guess,
Right.
just in case somebody changes their
Yes.
mind.
Mhm.
Right, okay.
Yes.
I heard that there would be like an interactive map that would be available for us to view the households that have or have not filled
Well,
out
you
the
cannot
census
view
questionnaire.
the household because that will be an invasion of privacy. So we have this tool, and I tried to bring Nantucket because it's like this, and the tool wasn't working. So I have Webster, so you go online, it's called Rome, and you can see right now, like the darker are the tracks that are hard to count. So everywhere, even if you have a good response rate during the last census, there are pockets of tracks that they're hard to count. So this is gonna be updated, and you can see where we need to work, where those neighborhoods where they have not returned their so you're gonna see the tracks, because like I said, you can see the streets, and it's gonna give you an idea where the trouble is.
Does anybody, do people receive anything once their information is submitted?
No.
I have a question about if we were to, in an effort to assist you in the midst of this process, if we were able to come up with a list of addresses where we had local evidence suggesting that there were people residing that may not be on the list that you have from the master address list. Would it be possible at some point to insert that as a, take a look at this and just
Yeah.
double check that there aren't some addresses that we have evidence locally that you may not have come into contact with? Because we do have, with the data platform here, it's an enterprise that has tried to identify where some of our people are living in circumstances where they might not be, they might not be leaving any kind of an economic fingerprint, you know, with, let's say, a monthly bill coming, so you might not know of them. Now, is there any point in the process where we could contribute that and say, have a look and check and see if there's anything you don't know about?
Yes.
And what time frame would that be?
Whenever you feel like send it. We
right.
can send it to operations, we can send it to geography. Geography will verify
Okay.
and operation will be aware
And
of
just so
that.
I can have a,
Yeah.
you know, a clear idea, operationally, that would be the chair of our committee saying, I'd like to submit this officially to somebody or to some place, and we could ask Andrew if he wanted to do that, and he could,
Well, in terms of your committee, you know, I don't know, but anybody could do that.
anybody can do it, okay? And is there a, like, could you tell me now, you know, what would be the contact point? So if I had that 6 months from now, and I said.
I could send it to you.
Okay, all
Top
right.
of my head, I don't know who's in geography.
Okay, I
but
think
they
it'd
are
be
in
useful to
New York.
have a record of that so
Sure.
that when we encounter
Yeah.
this, because we have a lot of situations where there's a good chance that in our community, there will be people residing in places that you don't know about, and it may be dozens or it could be hundreds.
Yes, I was,
And we want to alert you to every last one before you leave town,
yeah.
as it were.
Well, I was doing some research for coming here and last census, it was 10,000 and I think that it should be more than
Yeah.
that, and that's another.
One other question I had,
Yeah.
the housing situation here in some of these hard to enumerate areas that you have are situations where it's, you know, you might look at the dwelling unit and say, it looks like it's a place that has maybe 2 bedrooms and it might have 1 or 2 family units living in it, or household units living in it. And there might be many more household separate units living in it that would require more than, let's say, 1 or 2 questionnaires to be dropped. And I'm just wondering, how do you calibrate the number of questionnaires that would be dropped in a place that might be almost the equivalent of a student dormitory?
So the questionnaire said there is, you have to do 1 per person. So it will be
Right.
10, so it will give you the additional, it will ask you, are there additional people living at this address? And you go, yes, so you go like the next one and the next one and the next one until you include everybody.
So this would be 1 person reporting for everybody in the
Right.
dwelling unit?
Right, and that is
Okay,
that is the
alright.
tough thing.
So you just need to get 1 person who's gonna report on
Yeah.
separate, non-family, it
Yes.
could be non-family housing units
Right,
that would be sort of the equivalent of maybe college students,
right,
some of them living here sharing a room, some of them living there sharing a room. They may not know each other except that they pay the rent once a month.
right.
But 1 person would be delegated responsibility for saying, we need 5 questionnaires here for all the different units.
Right, and that's the challenge, and that's the part of education
Yeah.
to educate people that, you know, not just right away, it's
Right.
just like the person who happened to open the mail, it's kind of, you know.
Is it 5 questionnaires or one, I think it's 1 questionnaire.
1
That-
person reporting.
Yeah, 1
Yeah,
questionnaire.
that's a key individual who may hold 3 jobs.
I'm a little confused about, you'll go to neighbors to get data, but how official is that? That'll actually count towards the census? If you came to me and said, how many people live next door, I'd say 5 and you write it down?
If that is the last resort, yes,
That's interesting.
yes, that would be the last resort.
That's very
Ju-
interesting.
We're just trying not to undercount.
And that's
Yeah.
official. So then if I'm filling out a regular form or calling in and I don't want to give all the information, like I'm assuming, I haven't seen the 2020 form, I only saw the 2010, and it like asks for race. Do I have to give that?
So those questions about race, so there are 10 questions. If you leave 5, chances are it's gonna be a follow-up.
Okay.
But if you just leave 1 or 2, no, they won't follow up. But you need to put your name. Those like your name and maybe date of birth, your gender, those are important. But if race, if you leave it out, chances are they're not gonna.
Okay. And for, when you ask a neighbor, what information are you willing to accept? Just how many people?
Yes, just how many people, have you seen children living there, so, because children are very undercount, so, yeah.
So can I ask you, Laura, so if we have a lot of homes, which I'm sure there is everywhere, where there's 3 or 4 families living under one roof, family units, that maybe it's not really a multi-unit home, but they are. So if the one person that gets the initial form doesn't answer, she just answers, she or he, for her family and not the other families, are we ever gonna know? Yeah.
So that's.
So we have a lot of that. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
wondering
so
about,
that's
yeah.
part of the education, so the other families say, oh, did you put us into the census that he came here, and try to get them to
Yeah.
take the initiative
Yeah.
to be counted.
Because I know in our office, I'm sorry, Peter, they, when we do our town census, when they come in to get on it, because they can get on it and then prove their year-round
Yeah.
residency for the steamship, a lot of times if there's another family, sometimes they don't want to give the information, but sometimes it's just that they don't know how
Yeah.
old their kids are, or,
Right.
you know, all that kind of detail.
I know with some of the, like at Richmond, there's a new apartment building project that's under construction, and some of the units are 2-bedroom units, and they're sort of individual families in each. So whoever got the mail might just fill out their, who's living in bedroom number 1, and not.
We have like a
We'll get a
quality
lot of
control
that.
question, is anybody else living here? So they have to say yes or no. So maybe if they put yes, they're gonna get a follow-up, maybe it's not clear, so.
And that's part of the education, I'm assuming,
Right,
too,
right,
to get
yes.
that
So
information out.
is there any concern if we have multiple families living in what would typically be a single-family dwelling, and they don't want anybody to know that? I'm just trying to think this through. If we could encourage them through the schools or through the community school and their children to participate in this,
Right.
is there a risk for that family if they all put down that they're 23 Sesapana Road, which is my house, and there's 4 different censuses, 4 different families in that one address?
No.
There's no fallout from that?
No, everything is confidential.
Okay.
It really, once you get to the census warehouse, they strip the names and the PI, the personal information of the person. We don't check.
But even
with
that
anybody.
dwelling is really licensed or insured as a
We
single-family
don't-
dwelling, and
we
there might be
don't
10
know
people
that.
there?
We don't know
You
that.
don't know that,
We
okay.
don't know
We
that.
just
Okay.
have the unique identifier that goes with the address, so that's really all the information that they have.
Yes, yeah.
And they're
no,
not sharing it with like
Yeah.
HUD
we-
or anything
yeah,
like that.
Yeah, we
Right.
The
don't-
local
we don't-
building inspector,
Or the local
or
building.
fire
No.
department,
Right.
none of that's shared.
No, we
Fire
can-
code.
I'm trying to
can-
anticipate what the concerns are,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
why.
That'll be a
We can,
concern.
Yeah.
we are soaring, we can get penalized, it's not worth it for anybody. And if you see, like people are so afraid of giving their information, you give more information when you call a pizza, because you give your credit card number, all that we
Over the
want.
phone.
Yeah, or Google
Yeah.
yourself, you get even, we need your age just to see, how many elderly people, how many kids, so that we ask for. We're just in the business of counting, people and housing.
Okay.
It will be a barrier, though.
How they
And I know,
Yeah.
again, I'm trying to
Yes.
anticipate, and so how this is part of our job, I
Yeah.
think, as the group, is to how do we
Yeah.
I think
respond to those
Yeah, and
concerns?
I think it's later in your agenda, like, you need to let us know who are the voices, the trusted voices in the community that we
Right.
can come and talk. I know there's, like I was doing my round yesterday, I saw there is a service, some Spanish service in some Methodist church.
Mhm.
And we planning to come here and maybe when we can afford to come here, we can spend a couple of days and go talk to those, to those leaders.
It's
Yeah.
not cheap getting out here.
I know, I know,
Imagine for
but-
us, every
but-
time we have to go there.
Right, but maybe in October, do you know, the rates.
Exactly. Off-season is much more reasonable.
We can get the federal rates and we can be here.
We'll have more time to listen then.
Well,
Yeah.
St. Mary's also, and I think more people go to Mass and services outside of summer, because summer,
They're working.
Right.
so,
Work
bad
restriction
girl.
jobs.
It's so hard to get, and they're working jobs, but it's also so hard to get parking downtown when you're going
Yeah.
to services or Mass.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think you'll have higher attendance, and the Spanish-speaking Mass at St. Mary's is packed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's huge.
So that's where I can talk to the pastor or
Absolutely.
the priest and say, you know, announce it and, yeah, and we can be there, yes.
Let me just follow up a little bit on this point, because this is a really critical juncture, and I want to be sure we can get all the information from you while you're here about how this might work operationally. You're describing to us a way that somebody who lives in a unit will get all the information out that we want to be gotten out. And we're also looking at it and kind of reflecting on the fact that there are going to be shortfalls in that process. And another way to do it, I mean, a complementary way to do it, not an instead, but a sort of like the second inoculation for the disease you want to be inoculated for at least once, is to say, you all may be counted by someone in your dwelling unit, but we want to get you in a particular place, and we've talked about St. Mary's as a good example, on a Sunday where at a particular time, at a particular place, for a particular service, we have a particular foreign-born group that assembles in its standing room only. And that's a huge opportunity for us to position people there either with laptop computers, or I didn't realize that telephones work also, and
Tablets.
say, all we need to do is dial the number and say, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I want to answer maybe 9 out of the 10 questions. And so what I'm wondering is, what happens if we basically blanket these communities as best we can, and there's a substantial overlap? In other words, we have some people saying, well, I don't know if somebody in my dwelling unit counted me, but for my family unit within that dwelling unit, I can provide this information, so it gets provided twice with a name and something that you can assign to an address. What happens when you get the double counting going on? Are you able to sort that out?
So it's gonna be a follow-up. If we have like 2 John Smith, 125 Main Street, exactly, the information
Yeah.
is exactly,
Right.
it's gonna be a follow-up.
Okay, so we're not ruining your process
No.
if you end up saying in these hard-to-count areas, we're getting a substantial amount of double counting, but we're getting the person's name.
Right.
And we're getting the person's date of birth, gender.
Yeah.
And enough information that we can probably say, we got the same person 3 times, let's say.
Right.
Because that person didn't know he was being reported by someone else, and then may have forgotten that he did fill out the form, and then a month later, he's in St. Mary's, and they're saying, come on, somebody here is gonna put the information in, doesn't hurt to do it again.
Right.
So I'm just trying to say, but that could be an enhancement that would not disrupt your process.
No, that's what we asking,
All right.
through collaboration.
Right.
In just to put it out there. So there's 2 sources of funding that can help, like buying tablets and use
Yeah.
those tablets. So the Census Equity Fund is gonna have a second round of grants. And the grants are not complicated because, the census is every 10 years, so it's not that complicated. So these are for nonprofits who want to be involved, have a strategy, and want to help around, helping with the, mostly the immigrants group and the hard to count. So some organizations have asked, I think you can get from 5,000 to 20,000, and you can say 5,000, a community organization to buy tablets and help at the census time, having census events so people can be assisted to fill that out. And the incentive is once the census is over, the organization keeps these tablets and can use them for something. Also, there is a line item that it was passed in the state budget that will give citizen town some money, like or to hire a person and be that liaison that work with us.
Yeah.
We are depending sometimes of the town clerks, and I know that we're not the favorite people because they're gonna be so busy, they're gonna have a presidential election. So we cannot just, rely on them. So that's another way that you can get somebody on the ground doing census work.
Let me just ask one more follow-up question, then I'll shut up, because I went down with it. We're, at least at my recommendation is that we try to establish a group of trusted liaison members of the various immigrant communities that we have, and that through these people, we establish a trustworthy relationship with the target groups that we want to get to.
Yeah.
The people who don't want to open the door, don't want to answer questions, and are not disposed to get on the phone with anybody that's known as the federal government.
Right.
And where we want to identify where we want to connect with these people is at various religious services where we can get lots of them in an environment where they can be persuaded to somehow provide the information. And it sounds like the Census Equity Fund might be something that could provide it. We don't need laptops because we have high school kids who are laptop equipped from the school
Okay.
who would be part of this. But what we would like to
That's
do
nice.
I
is.
can't necessarily take those out of the
I
school.
can't.
Right.
They can't, okay,
No,
then they
I'm
may,
not at
they
the
may
school
need
issue.
laptop, or they may need phone lines, if not, I didn't realize you could do it by phone. But the notion that we would like to somehow make this, give this the sense that it is something that is being done in order to help the school get the funds that it gets from the federal government, and that by getting counted, you're providing dollars for the school. And it sounds like the Census Equity Fund would be one where we might think of some kind of need that we have to execute this plan. And maybe we could get some information on how would we apply for it, what the deadlines are, and what kinds of activities you're looking to support as
Yeah.
assisting.
You can Google
It's on the
Massachusetts
website.
Census Equity Fund and
Okay.
it's there. Yeah,
And there was,
and if you need
Eleanor
some,
emailed us.
if you have questions, just let me know and I'll try to assist you.
I had another
I'll send it
question
out.
following up on Peter. I would assume the same would work if you had two people reporting as heads of household from one address. That would flag you for a follow-up as well, or would you just combine the two
No, we don't
things?
really ask for head of household. We just ask for person number one, person number two.
How about if you
person
get
number three.
person number one at the same house?
No, because it's person number one, so by
There's
default,
only
the other
one
person
line.
is number two.
No, not if we do something at a church where you could have two families going to a
Right.
similar or different service, and they're only answering for themselves, but both live at
In the same place, and
address.
that's I think is
Oh.
gonna be the stickler for a
Okay.
lot of this.
Okay.
What would happen then?
They will count them like two people.
Oh, you'll just merge the two questionnaires,
Yeah.
and with no
We,
follow-up?
we'll have two people living 125 Main Street, yeah.
I just have a quick question about the process you said before. So when the initial envelope comes March 1st, where you can either go online or call in, is there, and then you said March 30th, the non-responders get a paper questionnaire, is that right? There's no paper questionnaire the first time?
No.
It's just call in or go online?
Yes, because it's the cheapest.
The cheapest, and then the paper one starts to come out the end of the month with the non-responders? Okay.
Yes.
I also wanted to highlight the RFP for the Mass Census Equity Fund. This should come out in September, I believe.
Like the first week.
Yeah.
So I think we, again, through this committee, we ought to decide, is it 5 different organizations? Is it 1 different organization? Can the Community Foundation hold the funds and disperse them as needed around? All I know is it has to be a 501c3 organization to receive it. And I think the best way to do it, I'd hate to see 5 different applications for $10,000, which seems silly to me. I think we ought to coordinate that, because I think there's probably going to be a little caveat of Nantucket, the perception is we have a lot of money here, right?
Right, I was going to say that.
Absolutely, so we don't
Yeah.
tend to get a lot of these,
Right.
although the conversations
Yeah.
that I had with a couple of people have said, wow, you do have an issue on Nantucket, so
so
we have
you-
to make the case.
You need your umbrella, you need to make the
Absol-
case that
yep.
there are many people here living, many immigrants living here year round, because
Right.
you do have a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that they're looking to fund geographic areas and like areas of work that they haven't funded yet.
Right,
So if nobody's been funded on Nantucket yet, then I think you have a fair
Nobody
shot.
Better
has been
chance.
funded.
I'm
Yeah.
sure nobody has.
So
Yes,
that's a vote in your favor.
Right.
yes.
Well, could you talk about hiring and where you are with that process?
So the local office, and I think this office is gonna, the operational office, I think it's in town, the one that are gonna
Fund
oversee.
Mass, yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
so that is all set. What we're looking is people who are going to do the field work. So we are recruiting, that means that we need numbers. People are not gonna get hired right away, that's the challenge. If we get people that want, like, they haven't called me, it's like, we don't know how good of a job we're gonna do with the automated response. So we don't know how many people we're gonna need on the ground, but we need to have a good number of
Right.
people in case we need them. So we just passing the word that it's well paid, it's about $20 an hour, you can work 10 hours, you can get 30 hours, it's about 6 weeks, in the different operations also, and just to go and apply.
You said about 10, anywhere from 10 to 30 hours
Yes,
per week? I
yeah.
think students might wanna do that.
And the 6 weeks would it be, late May?
So there are different operations, like, there are people already calling in to do this address canvassing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, gonna people calling in to do the group quarters, to do the schools, the nursing homes, the shelters, and that is gonna be like February, March. Those are 6 weeks. Then it stops for a couple of weeks, and then it comes the mayor operation, that is the door knocking.
Quick question, I was gonna come up, I just heard it over here. Is there a minimum age limit if one wants to?
18.
18, okay.
Yes.
So students who are 18 or over could be
Yeah,
a population that might find this
Yeah.
attractive in March.
yes.
You have to be a US citizen.
Well, we are not discouraging people who are not US citizens, because our numbers are low.
Don't you need a waiver?
Well, they have an issue waiver, but we're not telling people not to apply, because we want to have them in the system in case we need them.
but they would need some documentation for payment. They would have to be here
Or they will have to be legal.
legally, okay.
Yes, yes.
Perfect, all right.
But in years before, you needed to be a citizen.
Interesting, I didn't realize that.
Yes. Yes.
How do you deal with the really difficult people? This last winter, I knew by sight only 4 persons who were either living in dog houses or in holes in the woods, all winter long.
So the people from operations will contact organization that deals with the homeless, and they get places that might be, and they choose like a date, one day that they go around counting people who are living in the streets. But we don't know where they are, so you know where they are, so we kind of, rely on you telling us where they are.
But a lot of those people do have postal boxes. I mean, I used to work with the homeless inner city, and they had to get, if they were getting any kind of welfare or anything, they had to have.
But we don't go to the postal.
Oh, I thought you said you used USPS earlier.
Oh, they have to have an address
The address.
associated, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So then
what
you're.
would you do in that
oh,
situation
this
if
is
they
a problem.
don't
Oh, see, that's a
have an
huge problem. You're
address?
missing the entire east end of the island. I mean, unless they have a PO box out in Sconset.
No,
I
they
mean-
take
They
take
sell
the
physical.
addresses from the town.
Yes.
Like they take the addresses
Yes.
first.
But people with no physical
But
if they-
addresses is the issue.
Right,
Your
so
physical
they're.
address doesn't have to be a mailing address. I
Right, my point is, those people are never gonna, because you're not mailing to a PO box, even the card, correct?
Yeah,
These guys are gonna be uncounted until May, or whatever.
yes.
Oh, I
Right?
see what you're saying.
So that whole end of the island is going to have to be canvassed
Yes.
one by one by one by
Yes,
one.
and that's happened with the islands.
Wow.
Every island
With
that
resorts or snowbird type of
Yes,
communities.
yes.
Or is there some way to, I don't know, like just hand deliver, put things in people's
Well, I guess that's what the
porches,
PR
under the
campaign
door?
is on, like try to go on.
So, yeah, so is there a way, just, I'm throwing this out there, if we had a stack of these particular ones, do they have to be unique to the people, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. I was gonna say a stack that they could just put in all the mailboxes, but that won't work, because they have to be unique to the person. Wow.
Yeah, but you guys know all the addresses, right?
Pardon me?
You know all the addresses, right?
Uh,
From what I read.
I can
seems-
either confirm nor deny. No, I don't think we know them all.
But we know a lot.
Yeah, we know a lot, we
Because
know a
of
lot
our
more than
tax
the
records,
Census
right? I
Bureau
mean,
will ever know.
You could address.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
address
But a
them.
lot of, I'm thinking like Tom Nevers especially, a lot of those
Yeah.
people are not gonna be here in April. Physically, even if you went to their addresses, they're not gonna be here. They're residents here, but they're not gonna be here. They're gonna be in Florida, they're gonna be in Arizona.
So when they get in Florida, they're gonna say, where do you live most of the time? So they will say,
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
we live in Nantucket.
So you hope it catches them wherever they are in
Right.
Florida.
So
Yeah.
they're gonna get, it's kind
Yeah.
of a choice where they want it to be counted.
Yeah,
That's where their legal
Yeah.
address, yeah, they'd be thinking legal
Yeah.
address. You know, I was thinking, one thing we should accomplish today, Andrew, is we should establish some mode of this committee officially being able to contact somebody at the Bureau and say, we have something very important to tell you that we know that you may not have realized, because there are so many unique features of Nantucket. For example, what Margarita just said, hadn't occurred to me that the PO box problem, and, you know, we'd want to be 100% sure that you people knew about that, because otherwise we're missing a whole bunch of people who, you know, aren't getting. So there's going to be probably a continuing sporadic flow of very important information from us that somebody needs to get. And I'm just wondering, how can we, as a committee, communicate that to you efficiently so that it goes to the right place? We just need to have the right contact point. And I'm not saying you should talk about it now, but just, that's something
Yeah.
that we ought to connect
Yeah,
with.
I will get you a contact that will be
Alright.
the operation person.
Yeah, we
for
need an
this island.
operations person to
Yes.
say, we're your partner here, but we
Yes.
want to tell you something.
Yes.
And I would prefer committee members sort of funneling their information to me, because there's a whole, Nathan, our GIS person, is working with their geography department and has been for some time.
Yeah.
So there may be things that you're asking that are already dealt with.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, through any committee, it's best to work through the chair, or if we eventually get a staff person, then, so it's not bombarding the person
That's
outside.
exactly what I have in
of-
mind.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure it gets to the right person and has been properly vetted, so we say.
Yeah, and
this is-
Eleanor, for now, Eleanor is really our contact person.
Okay.
I mean, you can send it to me, and anything I think I
Okay.
can handle that to, you know, if
All right,
Andrew.
so that'll be the
He
chain.
gets pretty busy, so
Okay,
if it's something I can
right.
do, I'll do it. If not, I'll go
Okay.
through him. Anything I think is above my pay grade, I will pass to him, proverbially speaking.
Is it legal for Nantucket post office people to put a census form into a PO box?
No, because they don't have access to the census forms.
But you could send us a couple.
I don't think that happened in the past. I mean,
I was just thinking most people
I
get their
know,
mail.
I know, I'm just trying to, same thing. If-
What did you say, it's not legal because?
I don't think that has ever happened. yet.
No, but there's no reason we couldn't form an initiative where we
Right,
can do
exactly, where it's a
remote
grassroots
island-wide
flyer
mailing
near dear,
Right.
postal
with
patron.
funding that
Hello.
we apply for
Yeah,
through this
right.
Yes.
fund.
In the tax bills, you can send something, everybody sees your tax bills. That's
And why
it.
can't you send, there aren't any blank census forms, is that the reason?
There are going to be some, yes, but we don't give it to,
But, right, she
Maybe
used it
that's more for
before,
like the
that
homeless
if you
people,
forgot or misplaced your unique identifier, there would be a way if you went online to
Yeah.
do this.
yeah.
So
Because
the
it's
whole
your
idea.
address, your unique identifies
Yes.
your address,
Okay,
yeah.
so we could do something in the PO boxes, encouraging people to go online with their address. They don't need that unique
You as a
identifier.
committee can do that.
Right, not you,
Right,
I'm
yes,
talking,
Yes,
we.
yes.
What is
That
the
would make more
process
sense.
if you don't, if you lost your code? Like Like if you lost the mail or you threw it away? or
Nothing, you just call it as soon as you
whatever? You have to
use-
call, you can't go online?
Oh, you can go online too,
Okay.
as long as you use the
I think we're gonna have
address.
more
You just
luck
go
going
online and
online,
you-
I think.
Yeah,
Fill in
the,
your
the,
address
the
information.
identifier is just your address in a code, that's all it
Can I
is.
speak?
Doesn't mean nothing.
Your physical address,
Yeah,
so
your
you're not-
physical address, yeah, yeah.
So just so I'm
Online
clear,
doesn't
am I
work
correct
for
that if you have a person who says,
Paper, phone.
I just want to get, you've persuaded me, I want to get counted, and I could say, call this number. It's as simple as that, so
Yes.
in a church, at the end of the
Yes.
service, we could say, call this number from
Yes.
any phone you want,
Yes,
and they'll tell you what they want to know in your language.
Mm-hmm.
So it's as simple as that. We don't need to worry about, forms become
In-
extraneous in that case.
yes, in 13 languages, there are more
Right.
languages that,
Yeah.
they're not gonna be supported, but they're language guides that we can send, and the
Right.
language guide is just, you put the census form in your language guide, you can tell what it means,
Yeah.
yes.
But I'm just thinking, it seems to me that for a fearful person, it's a lot easier to persuade them to pick up somebody else's phone and call in than to give them a piece of paper and say, start putting information on it, and then give it to me or send it to the federal government. Am I missing
Would
something
you
here?
agree
It
with
just-
that?
No,
Or not?
We don't need
You're
forms.
thinking paper is better?
We don't need
It's
code numbers,
easier,
we just
it's
need to
cheaper,
have
it's
phone.
cleaner,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think we're hearing from these guys,
From someone who works at the school and has to work a lot with our non-English families, it's paper.
paper.
For them, it's
It's
paper.
paper. I wondered about that.
Yep,
Not online. A lot of them don't have Wi-Fi or phones or computers.
Sure, yeah.
Right.
And those are gonna be in all kinds of languages as well? That's what I'm
The
confused.
paper?
They can request one in a language, and it's gonna be mailed out. But they can call in to and get it in their own language.
Almost
I
seems
had
like we need to
understood-
set up like, not centers, but times when people like that could be caught.
That's what we do for
Yeah.
school.
Come through, have a whole line of people with laptops and have them just come and
That's what we do
Yeah.
for school for
ask them
registering,
the
and it helps.
questions and
Right.
then you enter the information for
Yep.
them. If they don't have access to the computers, we don't have all the papers.
yeah.
I mean, that could be where the grant
I mean, I
comes
think it's
in.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 strategies, like, I think there's not
Yeah.
one answer here, so.
And then you could do flyers in the tax bills for like the PO box people and give them the online information. So that if those go out, then they can, during the time that they can do the online, you might be able to catch those people.
Right.
But it does seem like, especially with how the school operates.
Right.
Pick up at
That's
the
what they're
club might be
seeing.
good. That's younger kids, but a lot of those kids have older siblings in the schools.
Right.
So
And the
if we-
few that I've worked with, they work better when you ask questions, they give you the answer, you are entering it. That's how I've seen it works the best. But if that's, I don't
You
know.
know, it is, a lot of parents can't write, some of them can't
Right.
read, so
Right.
like next week, we're having sessions for Aspen, because we use Aspen for school, for parents to register the kids, and the high school kids can't get Chromebooks unless parents like fill out a form. So next week, we're having 3 sessions where we're gonna be there with like Spanish-speaking people, we'll have computers, we'll have tablets, and people helping the parents do that.
Great.
The key thing, it seems to me, is that there are many, many everyday points of contact between people that we want to count and a trusted individual. And the only thing that has to happen is a conversation with access to a telephone. It's as simple as that. Am I missing something? I mean, it's just, that's the way
Or a
I'm looking
computer.
at it, you
Or a
know.
computer.
Or a computer.
I think
But
one,
even without a computer, a phone is much
Yeah.
more accessible. I'm just saying, you do it either way, but that's the way we can capture
Yeah.
everybody we want
I
to.
guess since I was asked, I'm gonna put in my 2 cents here. I think one thing that I feel that this group is missing is having talked with a lot of immigrants of different status to really understand what is the fear that people have and have them tell you what's the best way to reach me. Because all of us have different experiences and opinions, but I would really suggest that we run some, like those good old-fashioned focus groups,
Right.
where we have a group of folks from the Jamaican community, and we can talk with our minister, and he can find a group for us, and we get a group from the Catholic Church and from the Brazilian community,
Yeah.
and just put them in a room and ask them some questions. I think we'd learn so much rather
agree.
than assuming.
I agree, and before we make any more action plans and steps, that is critical.
Through the school, we have an English learner parent advisory committee, which has taken some time to really grow, because it's all about the trust They don't trust you. They're not gonna show up to anything. And we have a couple parents have showed up this year, so we meet once a month. The last Friday of the month, we meet on a Friday. We give them childcare, we give them free food, and they come and we just inform them of anything that's going on with school. And it's just, I have to say, the number one thing is just the trust.
Yep.
And the other thing is, there needs to be someone on this committee, the standing committee, that's an immigrant, if you want to have trust. That's our opinion. And I'm speaking from the Immigration
Yep.
Resource Center.
Yep, and we've talked again about, even if there is trust, then the next step is, why should I do it?
Yeah.
Like, I trust you, but tell me why I should do that. Why should I risk even a little bit
Right.
to do this? So conversations about what it would literally mean to them. What's the benefit?
Right, absolutely. And not just the dollar amount.
Right.
Because now with, the charge issue, people aren't going to use some of those services. So, you just can't say it's going to be $2,000 for you.
Right, exactly.
It's $2,000 for a white kid maybe in our school system. I don't know what the number is.
Yeah.
And the same thing we need, and that just needs to be succinct, clear what that could be. And there's a lot of programs that are possible, but for some of the people out of status, I don't even know if they can apply for a LIHEAP, for instance. We have our own things on the island, and the risk, like you said.
Yeah.
It's not high, but it's not zero.
It's not zero, no.
So that's my
Sorry,
2
Deborah,
cents.
what did you mean about the charge issue?
Public charge.
Public charge.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
a lot of immigrants aren't gonna feel, even though, it's like going forward, people
Mhm.
won't feel comfortable
and there's a
using
grace
those
period as
services,
well.
because there's so much misinformation.
Yeah.
Well, and there's no trust, right? Period. I mean, look at the ankle bracelets that were used to track the folks in that Mississippi thing.
The damage has already been done, and we just have to face
Yeah.
it as it is.
But I think we can build this.
Yeah.
I mean, I really
Yeah.
think so.
Just so you know, I've been working to assemble kind of a master list of trusted liaison persons. I'm not reaching out to them personally yet, but they're people I know of or have been told would be good candidates. And there will come a point later, I think in the fall, when we could envision one of us as a trusted person contacting them and saying, we want you to work with us, and maybe have them come in at their convenience periodically, over a couple of meetings, and just say, this is what we're gonna be asking you to try to do, and you're the only ones who can engender the trust, and try to figure out, this is effectively your panel to say, how can this work, how can we make this work? You're the ones who know these people.
But that's not asking people, that's like saying, this is what we want to do, how do you feel about it? I'm saying, start today. You can get a group of people today. I'm sure if we all put, we could put names in a pot and do a Spanish speaking and then another language. I mean, there's not just Spanish, there's Portuguese, and get that input today and give that to the committee to work with early.
Well, we can start on that anytime you want.
Yeah.
I've got a fairly
Yeah, you've
extensive
got a
list
pretty
of
good
people.
list going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But should we then, well, Andrew, could we appoint an immigrant person?
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to start growing this
Yeah.
committee further and further. I want to reach out, we can certainly appoint subcommittees or other things, but the
Or
committee's been
invite them to
set.
meetings regularly?
Yeah, and I don't want an unworkable group. We have a workable group right
Yeah.
now. If there are people that want to step aside and have somebody replace them, we could certainly talk about that.
I think what we're talking about is having some way of building a cohesive team via one person who is gonna handle it doesn't even have to be an official subcommittee, just gonna get this group together, and that person has to be a trusted individual. I'm not sure who it would be, but it would, one of us could serve that role. And I'm just saying, I know who these people are, I know a fair number of them, and I think it has to be working through the clergy. That's kind of the first line where we have to say, we want to enlist you all to help us make this work. But it would just be one person connecting with this committee, and it would be not an official part of the committee.
I mean, I think the school, at least the former person thought that school had a really important role here.
Yeah, the
Kelly,
school would be
well, and Kelly and her LPAC, I mean, it is a strong group, and it's a group that continues to gain momentum and build trust.
Yep.
So I think that
Yeah,
could be a
school,
really good place
it may be
to
the
start.
school, I mean, I'm happy to work with
Or
whoever
both.
it is.
It could be,
Well,
Yeah,
What
but that's what we-
percentage of people do you think on the island are immigrants of any kind of status? You know, TPS, green card, recent
Recent
immigrants.
immigrants,
What
not like.
percentage?
Yeah.
Like as a wild guess, what do we all think?
Yeah.
I think 25%.
I was gonna say 25, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can't put one more person, I'm not saying put an illegal immigrant on, but someone who's seen in the immigrant population, you know, that you're representing immigrants. I mean, you're running a lot of programs trying to get the count, but there's not one face in the group that
Is there
looks like
somebody
an
like
immigrant.
specific that you have in mind? Is that, oh,
No,
okay. I
no.
just didn't know if you were referencing somebody or
No.
other people that you might.
I mean, I
say
have
no.
I have an idea, but I have no idea if she'd be interested, but no, there's no, I haven't talked with anybody. It's just, you know, that's just how I feel.
I mean, having them just attend the meetings and provide input is not a problem.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
that
just
can be
even if they're
ex
just not,
officio.
yeah, they don't have to be.
We certainly can have ex officios.
I have to say, I used my mom a lot throughout the school because my mom's like the fairy godmother of the Spanish community. So I used her a lot to get parents into our LPAC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like
What's your mom's name?
Lucia Lemus. She's a custodian
She's
at
on your
elementary
list.
school.
Okay, well,
She's
Yeah.
already on your list.
Yeah, so she.
give me her name, she goes
I
in
think
my.
she's already on your list.
She might be Kelly. I think Kelly gave
I
you
gave her in the
name.
very, very beginning.
Oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
she was a huge help because everyone
Okay,
trusts her.
And
Because-
we can have a community event and explain these leaders what it's about at night, so they don't have to take time to work.
Debbie, good point.
I agree with Debbie. I think that representation matters, and if immigrants are going to be if they're going to be experiencing the greatest barriers on Nantucket, then they should have representation at this table in an official capacity. That's my opinion.
I agree.
So we'll move back to the agenda. Under 2020 Census Integrated Partnership Communication Plan, any specific items here for discussion?
I don't know.
Oh, one packet.
Oh, yes. Sorry, thank you. I appreciate that.
There's a table of contents too.
Thank you very much.
Page 3, the agenda.
And just a note, I mean, this may not be the appropriate time or not, but NDP is happy to help with any kind of like data focus, demographics breakdown. I don't know if you guys all heard, but we did some work with Andrew and his department to identify 849 additional addresses that weren't on the latest census list. So that was a big project that we did over the winter. And so we're happy to kind of extend that into a phase 2, and then I think it depends a little bit on what this group decides and the kind of strategies that this group wants to implement, but we're ready and willing to help.
Right, we have that list, and that's something that Nathan is cross-checking.
Great.
And it's something that will be eventually submitted. Okay, so we had a discussion, pretty much, social media campaigns. Anybody else have, under item B, anything else that want to bring up under those?
Under item B, I was wondering where we just stand with our discussion to maybe hire a person to sort of bring all the social media ideas. And actually, Margaretta must have just had to leave.
Yep.
Remember, she was gonna talk to Remain, but then, of course, there's also the question of utilizing the grant program. I don't know if that could be used for a person.
Right. It's something that we're open to, issuing a contract for somebody, but again, I didn't get any specifics on that from her. That we might be able to put some of our own resources to.
Okay, so maybe we could reconnect with her when I didn't know if she just stepped out or she probably had
She
to
had to
leave.
leave early.
Yeah,
She-
yeah.
Eleanor, is this a good time for me to give a brief update about the work Mira's doing?
He's the chair, so go ahead.
Is this a good time? Or
Sure, you can do that now.
Has the time passed?
No, the time has not passed.
Awesome. So, I apologize I couldn't be at the first meeting. I wasn't aware that I had to swear in before attending the first meeting, so I wasn't able to come and I wasn't able to call in. I'm happy to be here now. So Mira, as most if not all of you know, is the largest immigrant rights organization in New England. We are the chair of the statewide Complete Count Committee, so we're working very closely with the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office, a number of municipalities all over Massachusetts where we have a high immigrant population and are anticipating an undercount and trying to do our best to mitigate that, as well as working with the Census Bureau and the Census Equity Fund, and we're like plugged in as many places as we can be. So we hired a woman named Botsity to be the statewide Complete Count Committee coordinator, the SCCCC. She started in July. She's great. She's very nice. She's wonderful to work with. I believe she's been in contact with you, Eleanor, and she'll be attending the next meeting in September. Her main responsibility is to sort of coordinate work with the subcommittees of the statewide Complete Count Committee, and also work with the local CCCs and get everybody plugged in the right places, make sure everybody has the resources they need to be successful, and to help strategize how best to reach hard to count folks in all these communities. So she has started, she's doing a great job. There is a statewide Complete Count Committee meeting on September 10th at 10:30. I believe it's in Cambridge. At
Cambridge,
the Central Square Library.
Yeah.
10:30 to 12:30. If anyone is able to attend, I know that it's very far from you, and I don't think that there's a call-in option. But that's when the next statewide meeting is, and I know there's folks from the Pioneer Valley and from Worcester who will be attending that meeting. Again, I can send out details if that would be helpful for you to send out in the notes, Eleanor, about that meeting. So I wanted to give everybody a heads up about that. Just essentially we're doing our best to support everybody in any way that we can. My responsibilities at Mira for the census are a lot more on field strategies and how to count folks through civic engagement work and running Get Out the Count campaigns and doing door-to-door canvassing and things of that nature. So I'm happy to lend my support in that regard, and working closely with a number of communities sort of in the greater Boston area, but I'm supporting folks in Central and Worcester Mass as well, and I'm doing my best to reach out to folks in the Merrimack Valley and down in this part of the state as well. So we are small but mighty, and again are here to lend whatever support we can in any way that we can.
Great.
Thank you.
So Andrew, the hospital fair,
Yes.
that's October 19th. And I believe everybody saw the email that they're actually extremely excited to have a table for this purpose at their fair.
Right.
I believe it's 10 to 1, so somehow there'll need to be some kind of organization of who's gonna man that and what materials, but that's where some of these dates, the flyers, how people can go online,
We can be
the
here.
multiple different languages.
We'll be here.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome,
great.
that's,
great.
that'll be
Yes.
beautiful.
Well, I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say one of those day ones.
That's even
It's a
better.
good time to have
Maybe
it.
they'll just keep sending you to
What's
the
that?
islands.
Yeah.
It's a Saturday.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then you can go to the church services the next day.
Yeah, okay.
That's great.
2 in 1.
Thank you.
2 in 1.
Yeah.
If I could just make one suggestion here, this might be a real opportunity to feature whoever we could get available from our list of trusted liaison people, like if we could
And
get,
like the ambassadors.
yeah, like if Maria Partita, anybody, any single individual, Maria Partita, Noe Pineda, any of these people who could say, yeah, I could be there for 2 hours, that would really kind of set the tone. And I would suggest that, I just don't want to lose the thought, and I'll be happy to, once we know the time and it's closer to the date, like
Sure.
maybe a week before, just say, can we enlist you to be the trusted person to interface with people who come in? Because that's gonna start recruiting people and get the word out. I think with that, we can really make the most of that as an opportunity. And then any other social event where we can get one person there who's recognized, it'll create a lot of buzz.
Mhm.
What about the school, the open house? I mean, Kelly's not here. We talked about the they're not called open houses anymore.
The parent back-to-school night, I always
Back to
call it
school.
back-to-school
They
night, but I don't
won't
think that's what it's
Meet
called.
the
Anyway,
teacher
each
night?
school
Meet the
has,
teacher.
well, no, it's typically the very first weeks of school in September that each school, we have 4 public schools, has a family night where the parents can come in and see the classrooms and see where their kids are, and it's great. And they hear presentations from teachers, especially in high school. I have kids in each school, so it's,
Usually those start late September, don't they? Do I do late?
The first week
Usually
is
one's-
kindergarten, parents meeting teachers, that's the first week, and then it's like the last week of September, they can do that.
we need to figure maybe something out where we can be present there with a table and flyers.
Yeah,
and-
we just have to find out the dates, we can check the
Yeah, I'd
school
make the same
calendar.
suggestion about that. That's another opportunity to interface with people. You know, if a third of the people who come in and say, I know that person really well and I trust that person, you've got a third of the population, quote, inoculated with trust. And they say, you know, they've heard about it from one person they trust, and they're gonna keep hearing about it, and they're gonna pay attention. That's the only way you can break down the barrier of mistrust, I think. I think the school is really essential to this.
You mentioned Maria Portita, do you have any contact with her?
I know her
Last
casually.
I know, she's not even on the island anymore.
She's moving back and forth.
Because we
Yeah.
had to try to get her to apply for a job
I
at the
know.
school,
She's really busy.
but we
And-
just
and-
cannot get in
right.
contact with her, so we just kind of like let her
She's
go.
I got a long list of other people, so just keep getting someone who can make it. Maria, my sense of Maria is that she's so busy that we really need to be very judicious in terms of what we ask of her, although she's a very widely recognized person in the immigrant community.
She still has her cleaning business here, though, so she's still got the connections.
Anything else on this topic? Nancy, I know we're gonna work with you about your census. We wanna get materials out to the census, and what's your date for submission of those materials?
Well, when does my census go out, the town census?
Yeah.
It goes out, usually around New Year's. And then, you know, the responses start to come in mass for like 2-3 months. But, you know, certainly any day of the week I can get you
Right,
a file.
so for us to get material for you to send out,
Oh, just send with it, I'm sorry, I
Yes.
misunderstood you. Yeah, that would be probably, you know, around Christmas.
Christmas.
Oh, with the
usually-
census she'll send out in the mail.
Yeah, I'll, that's
Yeah,
right.
so
you
a
can send that.
reminder and that, talking about the upcoming
Yeah.
dates and what to
Yeah.
look for.
I won't forget you,
Okay.
Andrew, you know, I won't forget.
So
That's why you're here on the committee.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I say one more thing about,
Yeah.
I have concern relying on like one community spokesperson for an initiative where we have all these different community partners that have trust with these communities that are hard to penetrate, and I feel like we're going about it the wrong way if we're not using the groups that already exist to be the ones to build the trust and build the awareness with their own community and pocket of people, because the trust is already there, and I don't know.
I don't think we ever wanted one. I think that's why Peter has a list we were thinking of.
Yeah, it's
You know,
gonna be
people
a-
from all different churches and different languages, the schools, I don't think
So
there should
it
be
is a
one
better
item.
approach to look at the different systems, like the different, you know, this church, this
Yeah.
school, this, and try to kind of pull people together to be informed, to then bring back to their organization to share information and build trust within, instead of trying to break them apart or to bring everybody together to hear the message.
I mean, I
Oh,
can
it's-
tell you an experience we had when we first developed the Immigration Resource Center. We went to Mass at the Catholic Church to speak with this Spanish-speaking community, because we thought that they would have value for what we had. And we had an interpreter with us who was known in the community, and we talked, and there were hundreds of people there. But no one stayed afterwards, you know. We could have had 20 computers and we offered help on immigration issues. It just doesn't work that way with a one-time someone, federale coming, you know, and saying, I have all the answers. What I don't see in this committee, and I'll really be quiet and never come again, is a written plan on how are we gonna approach this community, and starting today. Because if you build trust, you need to start now, because you're gonna start asking people to fill out a form in 6 months, right? And I think you can put it together, but I agree with you guys. You know, I mean, we know who the leaders are at the different churches. And there might be other places, and the school, but there may be other places too.
See, I misunderstood a little, because I thought that's what we were doing, was getting a plan. Like, we're gonna reach out to the churches, we're gonna reach out to the interfaith community, we're gonna put it in the town census, we're gonna.
That is what we're doing. This is our second meeting.
I
I think I'm
thought
sorry,
that's
but
what
I
we
think
were
we're getting off topic here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And that's okay. I'm glad you're here, and
No,
that
I
is
hope you keep coming.
it's going to take a little more time than our second meeting. And we have some brand new people that have not even been here before. So anyway, the planning commission put this together because we wanted to be responsible and to get this committee going. If there's other people that want to pick it up and have a different view, but you know, until that time, we have to operate as a town committee. We have rules and, you know, procedures here about how to conduct our business and who gets put on that committee. Those just don't willy-nilly get, you know, it took a while to get the committee that's here appointed. So you need to be a little more patient here. I get it, I can tell you're ready to go, and that's fantastic. But you know, it's more than, we want everybody counted. It's so there's counting our immigrant population, counting all of our population. So again, second meeting, first for some of you here around the table, we have a lot of work still to go and some time. So,
Yeah,
and that is
and
what we want to do. We want to get to the plan, and I heard some great suggestions today that maybe, you know, to retool how we approach some of this. So, and I appreciate that.
And again, I understand the focus on immigrants and the different pockets, but there is a huge portion of our population that just throws it away. It doesn't do it too. So, I mean, the plan needs to include those people who are here or, you know, just don't fill it out or don't.
Well, right,
make it
the second-
as- Yeah.
The
So
second
there's-
homeowner's
it's-
not here, and
Right.
so there's
a huge,
there's
it's not
subsets
just
that
immigrants
we're-
that we also need
Yeah.
to somehow include and how
Yeah.
we get them. So I think that was where the plan and how to infiltrate that is. Because there's a lot of people that don't have kids in the school that are, you still need to reach them, so.
Right, they're working for hotels or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other thing, you know, I wanted to say to Debbie or to everyone is anyone else but me worried? Like, I do think we should start with the fair and all these things, the school events, but is anybody else worried if we push too much too soon that they'll just get sick of us? Sick of hearing it when the form actually comes out in the spring, or no?
I think that the barriers are large enough that you can't start too soon.
Right.
Yeah.
There are
Because you're not
there are
gonna
communities,
find Keep it on,
because there
yeah.
are communities
Just put
all
it
over
in there,
Massachusetts who are already starting census work, like Lawrence and Springfield.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of like a slow simmer. You know, you're really just kind of making people aware that there is something going on, and they may say, thanks, but no thanks, but at least they're aware of it.
Yeah.
And then the thanks, but no thanks barrier gets broken down by, oh, I know this person that's
did
part of
it,
the
yeah.
congregation. And just to answer your concern, we're talking about interfacing in 20 different ways via religious leaders and via any trust, any institution where people from a particular country of origin happen to get together as a community. We're trying to penetrate community. The idea is to penetrate the community with a person that is trustworthy, and just making a list of people and putting the name of the community by them. I got quite a few communities covered so far, right down to the Bulgarian community where they don't need any, you know. But that's the direction we're going in, and we want to get complete coverage.
And Laura, isn't it, I mean, based on the schedules at least that I've seen, it seems like things start ramping up January, February. That's when, I mean, we've talked to the selectmen like we want something every week at their meeting, it's part of the standard. That's really when you wanna start bringing the full attention, right?
Right, that's the pay campaign, but we would like to start just the grassroots.
Right.
Just.
Just the conversation and then
Yes,
what's
just the
coming.
conversation. I think October is good because, the kids are back to school and you don't really have, and you can send me a list of organizations that I can contact and just start the working and say, by the way, there is complete camp committee working and you feel free to pass the information to them. They don't have to become members, but they can pass the information.
I think the interfaith community might be good, right?
Interfaith
Yeah, we
council.
talked about that last time, the
Yeah.
interfaith council.
She couldn't Reverend Small couldn't attend the meetings, but she wishes us luck and I think she'd be helpful
Okay.
in that way.
It's also an issue of like, we're gonna be coming into different people through all these events throughout this time period, and we're gonna be relying on word of mouth from them to tell all of their friends and family about us, and then to come to ask them questions, and then to ask the community leaders questions, and to ask us questions, so.
So we want to train people too that are at the front of the first in line, and somebody comes to a clinic and say, have you heard about the census? So we have kind of educate people, can say, yeah, it's gonna come in March and send it in, and just the basics, so they could pass the information.
Wanna volunteer Mira for a couple things. One, I know that communications was discussed, and we have a communications director who's going to be dedicating a large amount of her time for the next 12 months to the census. And so the Secretary of the Commonwealth is producing a lot of materials, like flyers and things like that people can use. And they'll also be sending out like template versions so you can make it customize it for your community. But Mira is also producing a lot of materials and for us and for our partners that we could share, and again, share templates as well. So if you don't hire a person to do comms, it's okay. We can support you as much as possible. And the other thing is, I know we've sort of tabled the discussion of like trusted community messengers, but that's a conversation we're happy to help formulate a plan to how we're gonna get the right folks in the room and making decisions about how best to reach those communities. Whether that's me or Vatsidi or Marion or whoever at Mira can do that.
I just realized I missed something. What is the fair you're talking about? Is it it's not the Elder Expo, NCH?
It's the health fair, isn't it,
And it's the
Rachel?
health fair,
Nantucket, the
we-
hospital health fair and the Elder Expo are one and the same now.
Yes, I know, I was just at the meeting. That's
Yeah.
what, and I just, when you were talking about fair, I was thinking it was maybe something else.
I don't know, I wasn't the one, I'm just saying those two are they're the
Yeah.
same event now.
And
So if that's the fair that they're referring to, then that's what that is.
And if that's the fair you're thinking about, well, that's fine, but if it's not, it's one other source, one other site that you could perfectly well use, and yes, it's gonna be old folks, but I don't even have the date of it, but I'm sure it's gonna be after September.
We've got all the information.
For the fair, the hospital expo, it's October 19th, 10 to 1.
Is that the fair where the parents can bring kids in for flu shots and things like that?
Yep.
See, that's another point of contact where you have a parent concerned about a child's health coming in, and an opportunity to say, if we could count you, there'll be another $2,400 going to a lot of different things, including this fair where you're getting the free shot.
So that's the adult health fair, and there's also a pediatric health
There's a
fair in
pediatric
March.
one.
Oh, there's a
Oh, is
pediatric,
there?
oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's
that?
even better. Pediatric health, and who runs that, the hospital?
The hospital and the PDPFAC, which I'm a co-chair of, so I'm happy to help.
Well, that's a big opportunity, right
The
time
shots
to
that will be
name.
given out in October are mostly
I will
probably
bring.
geared towards the seniors, because that's what was
All
given
right,
out
so
for the
pediatric,
expo.
yeah. So everything I said, just apply it to that idea in March?
So there's,
Timing will be good.
Okay.
Okay, any other business for today? All set? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank
just
you all
have,
very
I
much.
just have to say off the record